Alright guys, let's go ahead and get things started. Do just a few last pickup things. We won't get into it, but we'll go ahead and talk. Obviously, today what we're going to be doing is we are going to be doing D&D prep. I got D&D tomorrow, running it. So that's what we're going to do. Up here first. And go. Alright, holding. So yeah, that's it. Again, if you watched our previous stream, I figured this was probably a good time to do these sorts of streams, at least for now, which is kind of while I have the opportunity to do these, show very basically how somebody could prep. I think that's super useful, especially for newer dungeon masters or people who are interested in getting into dungeon mastering, to see somebody else do prep, because the things like the DMG or sources like that don't kind of tell you what it looks like. So it can be super helpful to see, because nobody does it the same way. Everybody does it extremely different. So it can be very helpful, I feel like, to see how other people are doing it, so you can pick things that other people do that you like, and then know which things you for sure don't need. And that is always the golden rule with prep, is that you're looking to essentially prep everything that you're not prepared to improvise. So you got to know what you're going to be ready to improvise, which is a hard thing to know. That is a hard thing to know off the bat, especially as a new DM. So what you'll see is the things that I decide that I need to prep, and the things that I decide that I don't need to prep. And I guess that's about it. I think that's it. I think that's all we need to do as far as me setting up things. I could promote this on social media, but I'm not going to, because I didn't think about it earlier to go grab the link. So I guess if you joined us, hey, and if you're not, tell your friends, because I'm not gonna do it today, because I want to get in here and I want to do the prep work. So I'll throw it over and we'll look at the prep sheet. This is how I do my prep work. This is just a Google Drive document, and all I do is I'll go through here. This is our last session. That was last week's session, as you can tell by the date. If you're watching this in real time. If you're not, well, that's when I ran that game. Is 1:30, the end of January 2026. So where I start every time is that I go, you'll see this in other ones, I always try to do a recap. Always. Well, sometimes I don't. Most of the times I do. I try to remember to do it. So basically what I do is, the first thing I do when I finish a session of play is I make notes, or add to the notes what notes I've already taken during the session. And you should take notes during session. It's extremely helpful. It will help you remember things as you're going on. The sort of things that you would otherwise forget. So let's look at my notes. Alright, so what happened last time? Okay, we have a few specific things. Actually, in fact, I'm not going to start with the recap. I'm going to start with the notes that I made. So I use this sometimes. I generally use it to play. It's a tablet that's called a Remarkable tablet. It basically allows you to do kind of like a Paperwhite Nook kind of Kindle thing. Allows you, it's basically supposed to be a digital notepad, but you're able to load files into it, specifically PDF files and other types of files, but specifically PDF files. So usually what I'll do is I'll print these to PDF and then drop them in here. And sometimes I print them out. My printer's been funky, so I've just been using this instead. So I'm looking down here, things that I want to make sure we take note of as we're going through here. We can throw this. Probably not gonna need that for the minute. Okay, so I already have this highlighted, and that's light obscurement. That's important because that means that they have disadvantage on perception checks as they are moving around this mountainside because of the rain. And in addition to that, that also means that their passive perception essentially suffers a -5, which is important in case there are things that are jumping out after them. I don't suspect we'll come across a lot of that in this next session, but good to know, just in case. The current stamina also went up to 12. That'll be important because they're probably going to need to make... Probably going to go up once more, at least once more, before they get to the final conflict. They'll probably have to do at least one more d6 roll, unless something goes awry. They should only need to make one more, which is really only going to be a potential issue for going. This is a homebrew thing that I do. Essentially, as you progress throughout the adventuring day, you make... Every time that you guys kind of... The PCs do something, the party decides to do something, you roll a d4, goes up and it goes up and it goes up, and once it gets past sort of their threshold, which is generally their Constitution saving throw or their Constitution score, and I go back and forth on which one it is. It's generally whichever one is higher, which is generally about the same. If they're untrained in it, it's going to be pretty much the same or very close to it. Then their score might be higher. If they're trained in it, then their save's probably higher in it. Doesn't really matter which one you use. They're going to be very close to each other, essentially. And nothing happens until you go above that number. So we're sitting at 12 now, which means the next time it goes, it will be above Swain's number. Once it's above Swain's number, he then has to make an active Constitution saving throw against the DC, which is the stamina, which would be probably going to be like 14 or something. If he fails that, then he takes a point of exhaustion, a level of exhaustion. And we use the 2014 exhaustion rules, not the 2024 exhaustion rules. So he'll have disadvantage on ability checks. And this is just like, hey, the more stuff you guys try to do in the day, the more difficult it becomes. It's a tamper on their time, trying to squeeze everything into one day. It also, I like it to do with travel stuff, so as they're doing like hex crawling and moving across the land, then it's an easy way to keep track of that without trying to record. It's like, oh, you guys moved across 6 hexes, and that's 3 hours, so instead of trying to track time like that, I like to use the stamina system instead, and then kind of eyeball time. So generally, if they're getting towards this 12, means they're passing off into the afternoon at this point, which makes sense. They're very much getting into the afternoon. And so if they were strictly traveling overland, they would be the time where they'd start thinking about, maybe it's time to start looking for a place to camp for the night. But they are not. They are on the mountainside, and they are seeking for wise man Halamuth. And we're pretty much only down to the portion where they're going to actually need to find him. They've pretty much done everything else in this dungeon, which is just how it's an exploration adventure, but it's mapped out sort of like a dungeon, in that it's a plot-pointed map. But the current stamina has gone up. We do have injuries from this time. We'll get into it. Do this. So who do we have? We have Caleb. Zarnok. So both of them have picked up injuries in this last session. This happens the way that this is another homebrew thing. So injuries come up as like if you hit 0, if you get knocked out during a fight. Basically, rounds kind of go by without you getting up. You get some sort of lingering injury. This is sort of the game. What it's supposed to do is force the players to be like, you really don't want to go down in this game because you're going to have negative effects that come off of this. And so both of them went down in this last thing. We'll talk about why in just a second. All right, Caleb, they both rolled, or Caleb rolled. All right, we just do bar. Right thigh. Has disadvantage on checks and saves. And so he's got a pretty nasty gash on his leg. Meanwhile, Zarnok, his right ankle injury. And he is slowed. And I need to put their things on there. Now this can be 1d8 because it was pretty nasty, and he's only at a 1d8. Perfect. Rations, none of that changed because they didn't take any. They didn't take any rest, so there was no changes to their ration they need to check for. So this load's important. We'll go ahead and bold these. Check save. That'll be fine. So we're just doing a little cleanup from the last time. This was all correct. So now we can go down and do our recap. I think that's the only thing. I'm trying to read my own handwriting scribble. This is a spiral that I take in my games and write notes as I run. And then afterwards, anything that I need to fill in the blanks on, while it's still fresh in my mind, is kind of the important point. Is I write the notes as soon as I can to try to keep things fresh. Okay, yep. So party reaches their King's Cave and Caleb's lighted stone, tweaks, noof. Play light stone, toss. Noof. Noof, if you watch the last one, is the awakened raccoon that is a companion of Halamith, who is the person they are looking for, and who the cave bear has, or the bear king in this case. We can go back and forth with what he's called. Refers to him as the trickster, somebody who kind of screws with the cave bear on the mountain, and who he likes, and who cave bear has conscripted the party, because it was basically, you're either going to fight this cave bear or you're going to make friends with it. They made friends with it, but friends, they're not on equal standings. The bear thinks he's socially standing much higher, thus Bear King, and so that they are supplicants to him. So he has conscripted them to come take care of the trickster for him. They arrived there, and they woke Noof, who was inside. The group talks to Noof, and they do a pretty good job of sort of getting him on their side. Noof and get him talks to Noof and we'll say mollifies him. Mollifies him. I realize you guys can't see what I'm typing. Let me move it down. And mollifies him. Let the Bear King outside. It gets frustrated and comes in, making a ruckus. And at this point, of course, Ashes speak with animals has worn off. So they're unable to talk to the Bear King at this point because the ashes burn through their spell slots. Who is their druid in the party, burn through the spell slots and not able to really communicate with him. Say that Caleb trying to deceive. Bear King shoots off a sacred flame towards the top of the cave on a natural one. Determined it jars some rocks loose, which come down and smack Bear King on the head. And obviously the Bear King takes that as a provocation slash attack, and initiative is rolled. This is pretty much everything that happened. They went in there, they tried to get a handle on Noof, realized that Noof is awakened and is able to speak common, which was good for them because they don't have any speak with animals left. They didn't really know how it was going to go. Noof is a raccoon with a silver earring. All you really need to know about Noof. And that he's a companion of Helmuth. So they roll initiative, and what proceeds to go after that is not a fight that goes... They spend a lot of time not fighting the bear, essentially. There's a lot of misses, and there's a lot of like trying to get a hold of Noof, who begins freaking out. So there's not too much to say about that. Let me see if there's anything important in my notes, but I don't think so. So Noof flees out of the cave and down the trail with the party chasing after, and basically the bear chasing them. That's essentially, so it's a long protracted battle in which Noof finally gets out, and the rest of the party kind of make their way out. They get rocked pretty hard during the fight. It makes sense. The cave bear was always going to be a difficult fight, though the cave bear is... We can look real quick, but I'm pretty sure... Let me... Look this up real quick. So the cave bear is... Saplock is the polar bear. Not the huge polar bear. What's the huge? CR2. No, they are slightly different. But I was just using normal polar bear. Right? Yes. So the normal polar bear is a CR2 creature. So really just like right on target for their levels. They are a group of level 2 characters. Really not particularly a difficult fight. It was one that they don't have a lot of spells right now in the tank. They've kind of blown through a bunch of their spells very quickly for the day. In some previous encounters and doing speak with animals twice, I think. Right, I think Ash did speak with animals twice. And that kind of uses your druid spell slots really quickly. So, and there was no place, they stood there. The bear's not difficult to hit. Some bad rolls here or there. Some good rolls on my part. Not as good as my rolls in my Sunday game where I rolled like 5 natural 20s. Extremely unheard of for me. Usually I'm real solid in that like 9 to 12 range most of the time. Where I like to roll and got a lot of crits. Had very hot die on Sunday. On Friday, not hot dies. They didn't get crit on a whole bunch or anything like that. Nothing of that nature. It was just them choosing to do a lot of things that weren't attacking, which is fine. And not really trying to placate or do anything to mollify the bear. So the bear's just kind of taking swings at him. And the bear has +7 to hit, which is pretty good for a like a first tier adventure. So those levels 1 through 4, getting a +7 to hit for a monster is pretty big. You're gonna hit a lot. You're gonna hit most of the time. Most PCs do not have a 17 or better AC. So you're gonna hit a lot. Let's see. New friend down the trail. Yeah. So the group eventually losing sight of Noof. The group decides to use their Featherfall tokens and jump off the land bridge. Escape the bear. go ahead and say bear cave. So, in front of the cave, and where is it? I don't know if it's up here or not. No. In front of the bear cave, there is a land bridge. So essentially, there is a spit of land that kind of crosses with a pretty big drop off the cliff in between. It's about 30 feet down. So it's, for level 2 characters, it's a fall you don't want to take. And they did try to push the bear off once or twice. Unfortunately, the bear just rolled all right for the most part. But they end up jumping off the land bridge to escape the Bear King. Noof throws in an assist. And this escaping the bear. And they all drift down. I'm trying to remember where they drift down to. I do not have the map in front of me. I believe they went down to the bone pit. You have to double check. I believe they all drift. I should probably check. And that's pretty much the end of the session. Anything here? I left a note for myself here that maybe the griffin attacks and it's waylaid by the creature that jumps through space and time, which is a phase spider. That they know about it, they just don't know it's a phase spider. And there is still a griffin that's hanging around. So, yes, okay, it's down here. Yes, and they fall down to here too. Bone pit. That is where we're gonna pick up. Yeah, as far as what happened in the session, not as much as you might think. And that tends to be the case, I find, with running TTRPGs, especially D&D. Maybe it's just me, maybe it's just the way that I run or the way that I prep, but I always feel like, I always prep, sometimes it feels like 2 to 3 times more than I actually need. So I wasn't expecting that functionally one encounter was going to take up the entire time of the game. And we played for, just shy of 3 hours, and just shy of 4 hours actually. We usually start around 6:30, and we stopped about 10. We stopped a little bit early because I knew the final climax was coming up, and we had somebody missing this session. Hopefully they will be here this next session, so I wanted to give them at least the opportunity, at least the chance that everybody's going to be there for the climactic fight, which should be this session. I can't imagine that it will not be. We say that, but you never know. But what we were going to do now is we're going to start our new prep document. So we got a new session coming up. Go up here. Go ahead and add new subtab. And this will be session 29. Now, yes, that does mean that it is going to be session 29. And yes, my party is level 2. Yes, I know, I run a very slow game sometimes. As I tell them, is like, the only thing you have to do to level up within the game is finish an adventure, bring an adventure to its conclusion. They have done that once. We're now firmly in adventure number 2, but as you see, when it takes an entire session to do one encounter, because of the way that they choose to play and the reactions of what happens when they try to succeed or fail and make things take longer than might otherwise in the ways they choose to go about adventure. And sometimes it's like this, where they've literally checked out every single room or scene within this adventure except for the climactic one. There was a chance they could have gotten to this very, very early on. They didn't. They basically looked at every place except this one place, which is fine. It just means that the adventure took about twice as long as it probably should have. This this dungeon part anyways. Because they just ran the other way at every opportunity. Nope, not a problem. They didn't know. They're doing their best. And that's all you can ask. It makes sense. It's not like there was something terrible that happened. It makes sense that this is where we are. Alright, so we have... It's still Spring Mother 13. I do believe we should have everybody. As far as I know. Our one missing player should be back. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go with... I'm going to roll this. I'm going to roll my Weather Hex. One moment. You're going to have to look at my shining face as... Flip that document. I got to find it. Weather. Okay. Here we go. Weather Hex. So where are we at? We have warm, calm, light rain. I think it's... Yeah, okay, so we're at 0.3. That's where I thought we were. And we need a D8. We'll just roll it here in the Google Dice. 6. Alright, so we went from 6 to 3. And 6 from here is up and to the left. That's going to put us at 18. No. It'll be warm. Breezy. And heavy rain. Definitely not going to be snow. No snow. We're in the tropical area. There's no snow here. But it's going to get that, and that was 18. Don't make the same mistake. All right, perfect. So this is a nice one where I kind of do a point of order. At this point, you know what? I might have them roll for stamina. This prep's going to be a little bit interesting because I know specifically where they're trying to get to. They have Noof with them now, who can just lead them directly there. So it's not an issue from that way. So it should be very straightforward. Really shouldn't have a lot of issues here. But with that as the case, is now I'm a little bit more thoughtful as to the build up to that. I can be a little bit more constructed because there's not a lot of other avenues. They at this point have essentially, you look at adventure sort of as branching paths going. You start pulling place, and then there's a finish line at the other side, but there's also all these branching paths in between. But they have gone through all the other branching paths, so it's kind of just a straight start to finish at this point, which means I can be a little bit more constructive about how they get there. So we'll do a little bit more with that. So even though we will be continuing Wise Halamus Mountain, that being the exploration adventure that we're on, it will be not necessarily that. So one of the things that I do want to do is we'll have a nice strong start. So so I like to write myself like a nice little intro. Just give me a sentence to like kick off the session. Let's say you kick through the bones of the griffin's nest. Nest is the dust on your clothes. Mostly trail dust. Trail dust on your clothes. Now, streaked. And now turn to mud streaks. In the light rain. So I don't think... well, I don't know. We could pull them up. It could make that heavy rain. I might save that to right before the final confirmation. Maybe. We'll do it that way. Alright, so we know that. This is all the same because we already did all this. Alright, so we're down here. We have to do the exploration adventure. So they are beginning in the bone pit. Or no, through the bone pit. They need to get to, I believe it's 07. The panic room. Which is the one place, again, that in the adventure that they have not gone yet. I need to... I think it'll be useful for me if I grab the actual adventure. Okay. Well, I say that. Now it should be in one of these binders. Fine. I have misplaced it. See. Ah. There we go. Well. Found it. There, then there's something else I've been working on. Alright. Well, I no longer need that. We can look directly at... Okay, so, if they want to take the most direct route, get from the bone pit to the panic room, they need to go bone pit, any monster check. They need to go big camp. And no check before that. Alright, perfect. So, I know where we're going to start. I know where we're going to end. I know one spot we have to go through before we get there. Yeah. There is one nasty thing. Actually, technically, both of these will have to be wandering monster checks. This is the thing that I do in a DMing. Once you have gone through stuff and you're basically backtracking at this point, you're going through places you've already been through that should otherwise be cleared out of original stuff. That's when you're actually making checks for wandering monsters. The more time you spend in the dungeon, the more dungeon in this context meaning like the sandbox of wherever the adventure is happening, the more dangerous it becomes. So there are still monsters around. So what you do is, let's go ahead and roll. We're going to have to make definitely 2 travel spots. Alright, so we got to roll some d6s. Let's hope that we roll well. Perfect. Roll again. Perfect. Perfect. Not a one among them. Perfect. Alright, so there's not going to be any wandering monsters at any of these locations or any of the places in between them. That is perfect for us. So we know that we're basically gonna go straight to the climax. They're basically gonna be hoofing it up this mountain. So they're gonna go 2 different places. So I feel like, since we don't have that, we're gonna need to make a couple of checks. Ooh, they're also slowed. Okay. Perfect. Which means that they would roll, I think, those wandering monster checks with disadvantage. Those ones in between. Okay, so there's only one. It's on this last one. That's perfect. That's fine. Okay. Because they're just taking a little bit longer to get there. It means they're hanging around a little bit more. There is going to be a wandering monster here. Makes sense. Alright, so we want to go with things that are going to happen at the Bone Pit that's going to like kick off. This is what, if you follow Mike J, Sly Flourish, and the way that he preps for sessions, he would say this would be your strong starter, the thing that's going to kick you off into moving action. And we're actually just going to pull this from the last thing that's in here because I didn't use it. Because I was expecting them to get this far, and they didn't get that far. They did, however, speak with news, so they learned some of this stuff. Or that, and all the hijinks happened with the Bear King. So, you know that stuff. We do have this. We can drop this one. We can drop this down the side. I don't think we'll need to look at it again. Oop. That is not what I'm trying to do. Quick commands for me. I'm trying to type. The man's pain scream echoes across the mountain, causing birds to take flight. And we'll just... Alright, so that's going to be our sort of our kickoff. Be like, oh, bad things are happening to Halamith. So that'll kind of spur them on, and they can follow Noof. So at this point, they can either decide to split up and run because they only have that one person who slowed. So they could leave our darling boy Caleb behind, or not Caleb, Zarnok behind, which would be a very bad idea. Zarnok's our fighter, and it right now is probably the most useful person in the squad because everybody else uses spell slots, and they are quite thin on those. So they are going to get Swain back, and Swain did not, because he wasn't in last session, hasn't used any of his spells, I don't think. I think he's still got a full arsenal of spells, but he is a warlock, so not a lot of spells. But he is going to be there. But that's going to give them the ability to deal with these guys. The only problem that I'm realizing is that as he is, Swain's player has told me, or told the group on more than one occasion, is that he has pretty much packed fire spells, and this final conflagration is unfortunately with creatures that I believe are just fully immune to fire, just based off of the what's happening with them. So that's unfortunate. But he does have a crossbow, and I think he has some other spells that are not direct damage spells that may be more of use here. Alright, so they'll rush to the big camp. There is going to be a wandering monster here. Let's roll for our wandering monster. I think it's a D8 or a D10. On my table here for my adventure, I rolled a 6. And 6 is those guys. I don't want to use those guys. Keep moving up. Well, if I move up, here's the thing: is that if I move up, it'll be the griffin. If I move down, it'll be the face spider, because I don't want to use these specific guys. Both, which are not great for them. Let's roll d20. Alright, I rolled low, and I feel like that means unlucky, and I think that means the face spider. So, we shouldn't do that. Alright. There is here. Oh, good golly. Now, if they're smart, they're just going to try to sneak past this face spider. Which means we need to give the face spider some sort of preoccupation. What is this face spider doing? I have that in my handy dandy DM binder, which I have now pulled out and is right next to here, and it's a D10 table. Alright, so I rolled a 9, which is work. I think in this context, work means the face spider, which is good because the big camp is where the face spider stuff was happening. So it is serendipitous that we have chosen that. Wrapping a new creature in a cocoon, I guess we should say. I think I'm going to go with a large creature. I think it's going to be another one of these striders. We'll say wrapping. Let's just go with a large cocoon. And this is strider. This is definitely not a creature they want to fight. This creature is, I believe, this creature is the most, at least CR-wise, the most difficult thing on the mountain. So not a fight they want to have, especially not right now while they are down on supplies. So we'll say, you know, there's a sneak past. I don't believe the DC is very hard on the new camp. It is not. And the DC is 12. And the Panda Group's DC 16. So this is something that I pulled from ICRPG. That's Index Card RPG, if you're not familiar with it. They use a system called room DCs. That is, each room, essentially, you set a DC for it. And it kind of gives you some place to go whenever you need to do a random check for something. So, I know that the big camp has DC 7 is the room DC. I think this thing is distracted with something else to get by, so I don't think this is a particularly difficult. It's already got its next meal. It doesn't necessarily, and it's a big one. So, I wanted to make sure that it was a large cocoon, so that way they didn't misinterpret that as being Halamith, who screamed and was being wrapped up by this spider. I don't want them to do that. So it does give them the opportunity to sneak past. Now, as when it comes to prep, this is one of the things that I think is important to think about in prep, which doesn't often get talked about, is we assume everybody will pass a DC 7 stealth check. You know what happens when you assume? So what happens if they don't pass it? Well, they're probably going to have a combat. it's probably not going to go well. So, if that's the case, what do? I will try to make it as clear as possible. They should probably run from this encounter. This thing is also doesn't necessarily want to die here. Hey, how are you doing, Jenny? Nice to see you. So, sneak pass. So we're going to say that it has not interested in... It's got its meal. We're going to give them this opportunity to sneak past, but it's not interested in pursuing the PCs. So it's really only going to fight them if they stick around and fight. If they try to move on, then it's not going to mess with them. Oh, you're doing good. How about me? Thanks for asking. I'm doing all right. Just doing a little prep for tomorrow's D&D game. Yeah, for our game tomorrow. That's the prep work. Trying to figure out what's going to happen. Trying to make sure that my players don't get eaten by a face spider while they're on their way to rescue somebody. And bold these, I think that'll be nice for us. So there will be something, it'll be a nice little roadblock in front of them, and that'll be how it goes. So they'll either sneak past and they'll be successful, or it's going to notice them, you know, its little Metal Gear Solid exclamation mark's going to go up and be like, what's that? Yeah, actually, let's go ahead and put that. I'm going to go ahead and put that in my notes. But I don't think I'm going to let them, because I want to give them a lot of opportunities to get past this. So I don't necessarily want them to immediately go into combat. So this will give them a sort of like a double save here. Just to get them to go by, because, you know, luck of the dice. They failed once, hopefully they don't fail twice in a row. Hey, Biggs, how you doing? Am I the DM? Yes, I am the DM for this particular campaign. I play in a game, weekly game, and I run a weekly game. So this is the game that I run. They are finishing up the end of this adventure as they are trying to rescue Wise Halamith. They were going to ask him questions, but he seems to have been kidnapped by some fiery lizard boys. So they need to rescue him. They have come across Wise Halamith's awakened animal companion, Noof the raccoon, and Noof is helping lead them to their goal at this point, which is the panic room, which is directly where we're going to get to. Which is perfect. Okay, so we're going to get to the panic room. As they approach the panic room, they are going to... hear voices within. There is a chance. Tonic. PC check. I'm going to say an int check. What is it? Oh gosh, I have a character who speaks this language in the campaign that I play in. It's not Infernal. It's the fire language. I'm blanking on. I'm blanking on it. Let's see. You know what? I'll just pull up Oriole. How about that? Let me search for Oriole, which is the name of my character. And that'll tell me very quickly. Helps if I can spell his name right. Oriole, what languages do you speak, my man? Ignan, there we go. Perfect. Move this. Get out of here. Work, uni, all that fun stuff. Yeah. Yeah, you were playing a bunch of campaigns. Nice. Nice. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to make time for it. I understand. I love it, so I make time for it in lieu of other things. But yeah, it is difficult to find time to do it, especially as a modern working adult. It's difficult, especially for a weekly game. Fully understand. All right, so they're gonna hear voices within. Those are gonna be our lizard boys, our salamin as we call them. They are fire newts. We can pull them up on here. They under. Yeah, there we go. They're these guys. That's what they look like. My guys have a little bit more black. They're sort of like orange and black spotted. They're not fully fiery orange like this, but yeah. We call them salamin though. Just to make it fun. And or salamanders are also in here, right? Yeah. Something in between those two, but also I like to have a little bit more black in them. They look a little bit more like embers or coal than just straight up fire guys. But yeah, these guys are immune to fire. Those guys are also immune to fire. So too bad, so sad for Swain. His firebolt go-to cantrip is not going to be super useful in this final fight, unfortunately. But that's how it goes. You choose fire. Fire is the thing that most things are resistant to, unfortunately, in the game. And it makes sense why we're using these specific ones, so I'm not changing their immunities. They are looking for a very specific fire-based object. And that is what they are asking them. Which we'll write down here. Asking for the beads. Oh gosh. What are the names of the beads again? It's been a minute since I've had to remember this. That's okay. Or some kind of beads. Good one. Yeah. What I'm gonna say is Zarnok gets advantage on this check. Because he's going to be, he is a golden dragonborn, right? I believe. Anyways, fire is his thing, and he's dragonborn, so draconic fire. That makes sense that he has advantage here. Asking for some kind of beads, and we'll say that this is where Swain will pop in. Knows the beads they speak. Yeah. Will be the first session of this campaign. No, this campaign has already started. This is session 29 of our current campaign. They have been on the schlep for a little bit. They've been kicking around this island for a while. They are firmly in the adventure. It's hanging. How are you hanging? How you doing? Yeah, they know the beads. The name of the beads, which is flying over my mind right now, and I don't really want to go look it up. So it'll be important. I'll be able to look back. I have it in my notes. I can pull it up at the table. I'm not that worried about it. They're going to know the beads are spoke of because they are the beads specifically that our character Swain, back at the festival, made sure to trade to the haberdasher. Wanted them. That was one of the key things that the haberdasher wanted in the shipment, that they had entrusted Swain to transfer to his hands. So, you know, small pieces of the plot starting to come together. All right. So I think once they peek in, once they give a little peek-sees inside the cave. So this is another cave. There's like a panic room for those of us who have seen, and I certainly made this before I even watched the season. Watch season 5 of Stranger Things that just came out recently, as of recording this, somewhat recently. There is a place where Vecna doesn't want to go into, that sort of like chasm of rock. I have the same thing that they're using for a very similar purpose that Helmus uses, like his panic room, where when things get really bad or he needs to hide from something like the Bear King, these large creatures that he can get into that they can't reach into. So it's kind of his safe room on the mountain. The problem is that he is in the process of being roughed up by some medium-sized creatures who can also get in there very easily. It seems like interesting OCs in the campaign. They're interesting for sure. It's interesting things are going on. It's been a very slow burn campaign, I'll put it that way. But I appreciate that it sounds amazing. Hopefully, my friends are having fun. They keep saying so, and they keep asking me to run, so I must be doing something right. So once they peek inside the cave, they will see the Solomon and a roughed up and tied up on with one Solomon will lift his scimitar to his forehead, where a bright brand flares, dripping liquid fire across the blade and lighting it on fire. Brand, this will be we're going to use the Hermetic Alchemy sign for fire. So they'll be able to do it. Basically, Zarnak's going to be able to pick up a few different things. Actually, you know what? I think maybe Zarnak is probably the only one who's going to be able to get this. And should I make this a check? I do want him to have this information. I want them to have this information, so if you want your players to have something, you shouldn't necessarily lock it behind a skill check. They hear voices within, that's one beef. So we're going to change this, because I want them to get this. This is specifically because Zarnak, a Dragonborn, he will catch bits and pieces of the dialogue. They'll give us, so that way I want to make sure the players are going to get it, so they'll have the moments where they can go, these two things go together. Do that. Do I have any visual representation of my campaign's OCs? You know what? I bet I do. Let's see. I bet they've... Let me see if they posted anything in our Discord. It's been a while, so let me see if they have anything for that. I think we do. But I'll check. Let me see. Because I'm pretty sure Swain has one. Yeah. What's the best way to do this? Let's do this that way. Well, that's Swain, so that's our artificer. That's our artificer. Here is Severin. Unfortunately, Severin is technically question mark deceased. We don't know about Severin's total fate. Severin has been, as far as we know, this is one of those narrative irony things. So the PCs believe that Severin is dead. The party and everybody who's playing knows that Severin has been turned into a troll. So, sorry Severin. You got trollified and tried to kill the whole party. It happens. We have Caleb. Which is a very different vibe from everybody else. Sorry, it's slow for Caleb. And I don't know if we have one for Zarnok. We have one for Zarnok. No, we don't. We do not. He's Dragonborn. He has a big brand on his neck that marks him as a slave. That's the important thing to know about Zarnok. He's a real rough and tough mercenary looking guy. But we have some lovely images of our NPCs in the world. I'll just share this one because I desperately love this one. This is Pearl and Clovis. We'll zoom out a little bit. Pearl and Clovis the capybara. She is a courtesan, and, well, he's a capybara. They've already gone on one adventure to save a kidnapped Clovis. Get out of here. And so I tried to do little portraits for some of the important NPCs. I haven't done one here in a minute, though. Yeah. Anyways, let's move on. All right. So we've got the one Salaman who will lift his scimitar, and I guess that's the wrong usage of flare. That's the wrong flare. Flares. That's not pieces of flare. It's flare as in a fire flame. All right. That's probably going to lead to an encounter. This encounter is going to be a little wibbly wobbly because it's on a slope. And there's a chance they could fall into, as far as we know, a bottomless pit. So we're going to hope that they don't do that. It's kind of hard to fall down there. I made it purposefully difficult. So honestly, that's going to be most of the prep. It's really going to depend on how quickly they get here. I don't think this should take too long. It's really going to depend on how long the encounter takes. Which, it's going to be a pretty evenly stacked encounter because there's 4 Salamans and 4 PCs. Now, the Salaman aren't particularly difficult. I don't think they even really have a ranged attack, do they? They've got their Spitfire. Which they can only do once. So they're amphibious, they can breathe air and water, but they don't have a swim speed, which is interesting. But it does make sense how they got to the island without people get to the mountain's little island without anybody seeing them, is that they can just kind of swim / walk underwater. They just don't swim very quickly, apparently. All right. So that's most of the prep. So really the only big questions are, after that, is talking with, I don't know. So they're here to ask ask Halamith about completely different things. They're the carnelian beads. I remembered the carnelian beads. Which the haberdasher has. We'll go ahead and fold haberdasher. So they need to talk with Halamith. You know, is what's going to happen here? Is he willing to? Well, no. I mean, how do I frame this? They're going to want to talk to Halamith. Because they're trying to get information about the blight that's affecting the Vegemen, which are Vegepygmies, that are way off in... Here, we can pull up a little token for Vegepygmies. That's not what a Vegepygmy looks like. To the chief. There. It looks like that. They're trying to deal with these Vegepygmies that have a blight on them that is driving them, it seems like, crazy. In almost a sort of like murderous way, which is very interesting. So that's what they've chosen Halamith to speak to. They have three options of people that they could talk to. They could go talk to, there's a druid who was the furthest person away, but the person who likely knew the most information. There was Halamith. Halamith's the person who's kind of the medium distance and probably knows about the medium level of information. And there was Banu Yadira, and they could go speak with her, but she's the closest, but the least likely to know anything about blights. She's just a noblewoman. Oh, what kind of campaign is it? Hey, thanks for checking us out. Wayfire. The campaign, how do you explain what kind of campaign this is? It's a bit hex crawly. It's mostly, thus far, taken place on an island, on a tropical island. And right now, in this particular adventure, they are trying to rescue somebody that they need information out of. We're coming to the climax of said adventure right now. They're trying to get information about these Vegepygmies, these guys, that have some sort of blight going on with them. But they are capturing them from a series of salamander people, salamans, go back, who look like that. Has captured him because they're asking him questions about something called the carnelian beads, which is an item of particular elemental power, particularly firepower, that it seems like there are people that want to get their hands on. This is not the first of such relics they have heard about, nor been in contact with, actually. They have already been in contact with another one, the Nakertir. And so there is an overarching plot regarding these elemental items of power. And they have a specific name. Sorry, some of that stuff's been in the background because we haven't been doing it since before the holidays. So some of that's off the top of my head. I'm trying to remember. They're not accoutrement, they're called something else. I can't remember. Anyways, it's got sort of a Philosopher's Stone kind of bent to it. Now they're going to want to talk with Halamith. Yeah, they're going to want to talk with Halamith. Let's leave it at that. So topic 1 will probably be the Salaman. And topic 2 is probably going to be the Vegemin Blight. And the carnelian beads. So, which of these things do we know that he's got about middling info, as far as that's concerned. What does he know about the carnelian beads? I don't know, so I'm going to roll for it. They came and talked to him. We don't know if they sought him out specifically. So sometimes when I don't know, we'll do this thing where if you have played solo D&D or another sort of solo TTRPG that you would be familiar with, that is called asking the Oracle, which essentially I do a D20 Oracle. If I get 11 or higher, the answer is yes. If the answer is 10 or lower, I say no. If it's likely, I give a +3, unlikely -3, very likely +5, unlikely -5. Very simple. And that plus or -5 is roughly equivalent to rolling with advantage or disadvantage, roughly, mechanically. So, does he know anything about the carnelian beads? His name is Wise Haldemith. I think it's likely he knows something about it. So +3. Does he know anything about the carnelian beads? That's a lot of no. So he does not. So he doesn't know. Unknown to him. Yeah, I popped up randomly on your YouTube feed. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for giving us a checkout. So yeah, we're just doing, we are prepping for tomorrow's game. That's what we're doing. So we've got our talk with Haldemith. It'll be our big thing. I don't even know if we're going to get this far. It's likely we're going to get pretty close to it if we don't get this far. There's not too much unless they really start talking to each other a whole bunch. They do a lot of RP. I think they should get here. So the Salmon attack and the carnelian beads. So sometimes it's easy to go who, what, when, where, why. You know what? That was really screwy of me. I should have done something else. You know, I put all the work into making that stupid thing and we went over it on stream. And then I'm like, here's a perfect opportunity to use it. And then I don't use it. Let me find it. 1 second. Here. I don't know. But I think it's in this document. Let me get down to it. Yes. Yes. Okay. Here we go. Let me back over. So I didn't use this, which would have been useful to know. So there's NPC local knowledge and rumor accuracy. Okay. So Haldemith is definitely... We're not going to do it by hex in this specific one because he's a little far away for that. But he is wise, so... Or I could use the hex, even though... I can literally just look and see how many hexes away he is. But we don't really have a pinpoint for the carnelian beads. But we do have a pinpoint as far as those guys are concerned. So they are 1, 2, 3. They are technically 5 away. So for the... We can keep extrapolating this out. So they would need to, at 5 away, he would need to roll a 14 or better to know anything about it. And then roll a 22 or better to be very accurate about it. So here's what we're gonna do. We'll roll for him. He's a knowledgeable guy. I'm gonna give him advantage on the roll. Called wise for a reason. Okay. So he rolled a 15. So he does know something about it, but he's not super accurate about it. That feels like middling information to me. I like that. Alright, so, we're gonna take away this part because we're filling all that out. Going. This is technically about that. So, does he know who they are? Yes. We'll do it this way. Such creatures migrating from down north on the island. We'll just say from down north. I'll remember what that means for you. Oh, do we play with a hex grid system? Yes, this is a bit of a hex crawl. I can actually bring you guys up the map. Pull up the map. Just for you guys, and then you guys will know sort of where we are in the world. Go with my campaign. We need... and look on that. That one. Yeah. Yeah. Here we go. Throw this over. You guys literally... come here. Here we go. All right. There it is. So this is our map. Let me make it this way. Get a little bit larger. This is our play map, our play area for right now. Each of these hexes is about 2 nautical miles, or what I call league hexes. Basically, it's an hour of travel. They've got a main island and then a whole bunch of sort of marsh and shoals around, and these are all like oceans around the main island here in the center. So right now they're right over here. This is Wise Halamus Mountain. Our regiment are up here, where they are. And most of the place where they have what sort of their home base is down here. Oh, yep, that's the map. They've just been kind of farting around in this island area, for the most part. No, we don't need to save this. You never played with a hex grid system. But a friend of yours just started up a campaign where he's going to use this type of system with 1 hour travel. It seems pretty smart. Yeah, it's a very different style of play, sort of. Where it's a little bit more focused on like going places and getting to places and discovering things. It's slightly different mode of play. And it's definitely a little bit different than what my players are used to. Most of them are relatively new to D&D, whereas I've been playing it for a long time. This is the first campaign they've ever had that's kind of like that, where they need to go around and do things and go to places and talk to people in a way where information is just not kind of handed out to you. You kind of have to find things out. Okay, so he knew about that. All right, so let's give our boy another roll. Okay, again, so he knows it. He knows of it, but he's not particularly accurate. He knows what's going on with them, so we know he knows about the blight. Do we interpret that as he knows the cause of it? Question mark? No. Okay, so he doesn't know necessarily the cause of it. Okay, so knows light affects such plant like creatures. Doesn't know the specific cause, but such things are usually environmental. Instead of environmental, we'll say usually, or such things are local area. It's like he knows that the blight's going to affect them. He knows that it probably has something to do with wherever their homelands are, because right now they have migrated. They are not in their traditional homelands, which is on the northern part of the island. They have moved towards the central area of the island. Oh, sorry, I do need to switch things. Sorry. Thank you for reminding me. After I close that out. There we go. Don't need that. Don't need that. Need. Here we go. That's not the right one. That's not the right one at all. This one. There we go. Alright, what was I saying? So yeah, he knows that, he doesn't know the specific cause, but such things are caused by something in the local area. So he's telling you, are, let's say, typically natural, caused by something in the local area. But I need to give him answers for this stuff, because they're going to start asking questions, because that's the whole reason they're here to talk. Find this guy. He's heard about such creatures migrating down from the north. He knows the blight affects such plant-like creatures. It doesn't know the specific cause, but such things are typically natural, caused by something in them. I'll say a specific source so I don't use cause twice in the same sentence. Doesn't know the specific source, but such things are typically natural, caused by something in the local area. So, unfortunately, they're getting a lot of kind of information. That's okay. Okay, they might find it a little bit unfulfilling, but they're gonna get leads on other stuff. Okay, 15. So again, he knows something about stuff. We did know that he was going to be kind of the middling person to ask. They took sort of the middle of the road approach. So they're getting kind of middle of the road answers. If they had gone and asked Bano Yudira about this, she would probably not have very good information. She'd know a lot more about like the specific area the plant people are probably from, but as far as like answers about what's afflicting them, she would have basically no knowledge. All right, so when? What's our answer for when? Like how long, maybe? That's a time question. So maybe like how long does afflict them? Yeah, maybe it's how long does it afflict them? And then is it recoverable? I guess maybe is the right question. And those are just going to be Oracle questions for us. So, is this take a long time to... Well, let's do this differently. Is this something that happens, let's say, in weeks? No. Something that happens then in days. If it's not weeks, then probably days. Extremely virulent. That makes me think more likely than like months. Yeah. Okay. And the blight takes its toll in days. So that's just straight up information he's gonna know. That's kind of his hearsay. Takes its toll in days. Do people usually die of this? No. That's a good days. But to his knowledge, usually non-lethal. This doesn't seem to be the case with their experience. What if my players watch this? Yeah, there's always a chance they will. One player in particular, there is always a chance. As I usually tell them, is like, look, if you watch this, you're only spoiling it for yourself. So, you know, that's up to you. Depends on whether you can separate that from a good time or not. Like knowing the twist to a mystery book. You know the whodunit. You know who did it, or you do it. I can't stop them from doing that. There's a chance they could watch it. There's always a chance they could watch it. It's up to them. So, they know my stance about that. They know it exists. They know that I'm prepping it. It's up to them. And I don't always prep on stream is the problem. So it becomes very obvious whether you watch the stream or not. Alright. So we know that that win information is not super correct. Where? Does he know any specifics about the area? I guess this will be a flat roll. But 11's too low. So 11's no. No, he doesn't. Unknown. Unknown to him. So he doesn't have any idea. Yeah, we'll say a cause, I guess. This is unknown to him. They kind of already know this information. They know they can find out generally where the Vegemen were previously on the island before they migrated. So they'll have some idea. So they just kind of need to go there, but he can't give them any, he can't dial it in any more than like that area. And then as to why is this happening? He has literally no clue. No idea. I guess I should probably put how on there as well. Or, whoa. No idea. A natural blight. Probably a natural blight. And we should put our woe on here. Which is just how backwards, so that way we have 6 W questions out of 5. So how is this happening? Does he know anything about the transmissions? Definitely not that. No, he has no idea. Likely spores. PCs have seen spores erupt from dead Vegemen bodies. So they've already encountered kind of like at least the method of transfer when it comes to Vegemen to Vegemen. They've seen that before. So is there another way that like the blight originally got into them, or maybe that's more specific about the area they were in? Halamith can't give them that information. He doesn't know it. He lives on an island many miles away. He doesn't really know. Is this prepping setup available in that shop you have? Like a walkthrough or prepping in the knowledge roll mechanics, etc. Not at this time. There wouldn't be really anything to put in it. It's really, hey, here's who's here. I mean, we can run it down real quickly if you would like. If you want to know about like the setup. And this is not the setup I use. The setup's always a little weird because we're in the middle of an ongoing adventure, so there's a whole different thing that we're working in, which is this first part up here. Part. And actually, this is actually probably a good place. I really probably should have done this. Make this the Talk with Halamith with its own subhead. And moved everything back. Moving on back. Yeah, now. There's just not, there's really not enough meat to make it, like, a sellable item, I feel like, in my mind. So, yeah, I mean, I just kind of cobbled together. But we can go through it real quick, and then it'll kind of give you an idea. It seems like a good way to set up to who knows what, etc. Yeah, I seem to know what I'm doing. Only through many years of not knowing what I'm doing. if I come to know occasionally what I'm doing. But thank you. At least it seems like I know what I'm doing. But yeah, we could run down just sort of like what this basic order is, that the basic setup, and this changes all the time. It's never set in stone. It always kind of moves, manipulates, changes to what I need it to be. So at the beginning, I put the date of when we're playing. I put the session it is in the campaign that I'm running, and then that last part there is the calendar in the world, so I know kind of when it is in the world. And it helps me do things like festivals. If there are timed events, I know I can keep wary of the time as they're approaching things that are happening that I know are going to happen in certain weeks, certain days, or I know in a week this is going to happen, or something like that. And down here, I put the party. I put everybody that I know of is going to be at that session, which characters are actually in that session. At the beginning of the stream, we had Swain in absentia because he was not at the last session. We've moved him back in because he's going to be in this session. Down here, I have folk. This is just something I do. I have a calendar, and I believe the calendar is in the store. I have it in a little DM's binder that I use to help run my stuff. As you can see, it's got a whole bunch of writing all over it. It was important because I needed to know one of the things that wasn't on this calendar that I needed to know for a very specific character were the phases of the moon, which I was not prepared to do. But it's a custom calendar. Do you need to do that for your D&D campaign? Absolutely not. This is a terrible example of what you need to be focusing on. I have a world I've been working on for years. You do not need to do this to run a campaign. Just use the straight up Gregorian calendar if you want to. Or a lunar calendar, or a different calendar that already exists. Let somebody else do the hard work for you. Important about here is what's on the back, which is its own download on that store. If you do actually want to get this, this is the agricultural chores by season, and that's what the folk heading is on here. So if there's any ever question as to like kind of what's going on with the regular people, I have an answer for that, and it's basically by week. So each week I kind of know what they're doing. So it's spring. It is past the equinox. They're in the process of birthing piglets. We already had our druid last time they were in town help birth a breached piglet. So just kind of tying them into the local community, having them do stuff. After that, I have the weather. I like to use weather. It's something to be very useful. What I should do, number one, these should be palette. And I also need to put this heavy obscurement. Mainly because the Y. It's worth a Y, I think. Actually, can I put the whole thing? Yeah. Alright, that won't break the line. Good. Perfect. So the weather is nice. Usually I do weather in two ways, so you'll see basically two different sets of weather, which is basically how the weather is going to start in the session, and then how the weather is going to end in the session. So at some point, whenever they take a break or it seems thematic, I'll transition the weather through that. So it makes it feel like the weather is constantly moving. If I don't do that, because my focus is somewhere else or whatever, it should be breezy, not beezy. That's fine. It's no thing. It's just add a little bit more richness to the tapestry of what's going on. Those are all my little setup things. And I have some point of orders or foreshadowing. This is stuff that I want to throw in at the beginning of the session, stuff that I want to make sure that we take care of. It's our to-do list, essentially. So this one, I like to, as I said, I like to write myself a little intro sentence just to like kick off the session. It kind of gives them a little thematic idea of what's going on with everything. You kick through the bones of the griffin's nest as the trail dust on your clothes has now turned to mud streaks in the light rain. Reminds them that, hey, it's raining, you're under light obscurement, which means that you have disadvantage on perception checks. Stamina, because we have that stamina system. Injuries, because we're using an injury system. Just to remind people, they will also roll for these injuries at the beginning of each session. That's why they have dice notations next to them. It works like our resource dice, which is what we use for rations and things like that. If they roll a 1, it goes down. Once they hit 0, So it goes down a die size. So that D6, for example, Zarnok has a banged up ankle right now. He rolls a 1 on that 1d6 at the beginning of the session. It goes down to a d4 to show that his ankle is healing. He rolls a 1 on the 1d4. The next time, it goes down to 1, which means there's one more session of his ankle being bruised up. After that, he's fighting fit. He's perfect again. So it's just a way to just have those lingering injuries just kind of hang around for a little bit as a detriment. And same thing for rations. It's like they go down. Pretty smart having a set time for the weather change, makes the world more dynamic and real. Yeah, it's just a nice thing to show, like, if time's moving, if you need to do a time jump in a session or something like that, it's a very easy way to do that. Also, because weather does impact things, like that heavy obscurement's really bad because they have disadvantage on attacks in heavy obscurement. Probably won't come up because the fight that they're probably going to do is going to be within a cave, so the weather's not going to matter that much. But important to note. But remember, because of the obscurement, whether that's light rain or the heavy rain obscurement, means disadvantage on either disadvantage or treated as the blinding condition when it comes to perception, which means that it's even easier for them to bypass that phase spider when they're trying to sneak by them, because that phase spider will have essentially a -5 on their passive perception to get by, which I'll probably interpret as giving them advantage on the roll. Actually, I should probably go ahead and do that. Say from rain, not for rain. From rain. Just so I remind myself about it. So yeah, anything that I want to do or foreshadowing, one of the things I like to do is I'll build foreshadowing, kind of coming through as they do it. Foreshadowing, if I have something that's specific to the background, one of the ways that I use this very often is like, if they take a long rest, I'll have somebody have a dream sequence or something like that, something that I want to make sure. Or if they're at the marketplace, I know that there's one specific person that they might run into, so I'll add that in here. Things I want to make sure that I bring up to them, which are usually just character building and backstory kind of things as I hit the mic. And then onto that, it's just like literally bolting out what I think is going to happen during the session, what I expect to happen during the session. Now, will this be what happens during the session? Almost assuredly, no. What we're going to know is this is going to happen. That's about all I know is going to happen. I know that they will be in the bone pit because that's where I'm going to start the session. And they are going to hear the man scream. You will recognize that as Halamith. After that, it's off to the races. I have no idea what the PCs are going to do after that. The players could decide to be like, yeah, actually, we're going to abandon this. That happened in the very first adventure of this campaign. They decided to abandon the adventure at the very beginning of the adventure. They went, nope, we got into our first combat and got our socks rocked, and we were like, this is above their pay grade. It wasn't. It was just that it just ended up being a tough encounter. But anyway, so they welched on that one and went back. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how I set up. That's how I'm setting up sessions right now. No real secret, no real mystery. Just very simple stuff. And so I put down the things that are important for me that I don't think I will remember, or the things that I don't think I feel comfortable improvising. So I like to know what's kind of going on in the world, what time it is as far as the year, and calendars, and have some idea for weather. So if I throw something in like that, as far as doing like dressings, like environments or stuff like that, I have lots of resources for that in this, which is my DM. Most people call it a DM binder. This is technically a folder, a DM folder, which gives me stuff like I have lots of different things. I know I have a video about going through all of it, but it'll have me things like doing travel or doing downtime, or 1d100 different NPCs to run into just when they run into a random random NPC, or if I want some sort of flavor for as they're traveling around, I have a little table for that. I run that kind of stuff, just to help me improvise stuff on the fly. But that's it. It's not that fancy. But I do think this sort of stuff is super useful for people who want to DM or want to see how other people DM, and especially prep for sessions. So that's what we're going to finish up doing here. And I think as soon as we finish up these questions, that's probably all I need to prep. I can't imagine that they will get through both of these encounters. Well, they could. They might go back. I can outline that, but not... I can give myself a... If I'm not... At this point, I would probably be okay improvising that. And we'll say the return to Palais. And I'll just bullet point out some things that I think might happen on their way back. I assume, again, this is what happens when you assume, that they will try to take Halamuth with them. Which, considering his island does not seem to be particularly safe at the moment, he will not take a lot of convincing. Be like, yeah, that makes sense. He'll want to gather a few things before they head back, though. They may actually take a rest here. Which, yeah, no worries. Yeah, absolutely happy to explain it. You ran one campaign for about a year before, but it quickly turned into mostly improv. I think it's too obsessed with not railroading. So it quickly turned into a bunch of random adventures. Yeah, I get that. It's a balancing act. You definitely don't want to do a ton of railroading, but lots of players are different. I actually have to railroad this campaign a little bit more than I intended to. I kind of built it to be more of a sandbox campaign where they kind of chase down their own different personal stories and had them do, we did big session 0 and all that stuff. But a lot of things that I learned from, I see with a lot of people who are newer into the hobby of D&D, it's that they want a more, we will put this very nicely, curated experience for D&D. And D&D 5e 2024 puts a lot of impetus, or a lot of, not impetus, a lot of onus on the DM to provide that you are more like curating an adventure for you rather than being a person who is also playing. Sometimes it feels like it's like you're the person who's expected to come up with the fun time for your friends rather than being an equal part player who's also supposed to get your fun out of it too. So yeah, it's back and forth. So I'm trying to get them to be like, go out and chase things down, to show initiative. Because we spend a lot of, I know, there's a reason why they're still level 2, but we're doing our 29th session, is they've done a lot of farting around in town before we made some of this change and be like, okay, then I will literally push you guys into adventure. But whoa. But yeah, it's slightly different. And your first time DMing. Yeah, I mean, hey, you got to break the seal. And now you know a little bit about what you're doing. And every time that you do it, it gets a little bit easier, and you learn lessons each time. Yeah, undoubtedly it will be better. The second time will always be better than the first. I would say probably it's going to be at least 50% better than the first campaign. At least. If not more than that. No worries. And well, even if you didn't change the way you were doing it, just the experience of doing it will make it a better campaign. Okay. So the problem is that he doesn't really know anything about the Solomon. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to roll this at disadvantage. I think we're going to base the difference here off of, so we wanted to keep using this. What we're going to do, I'm going to pull up the map again for myself. You guys don't need to look at it, but it is we're in local map. Let me pull that up. I'm trying to figure out how far away he is technically from the area in which they are doing that, which is pretty freaking far. Alright, so they are they're 10 hexes away. So it's almost impossible that he will know any knowledge about this, which makes sense. So what we're going to do here is we're basically going to go fishing for some natural 20s. That's basically what we need. Well, we didn't get one there. And we got pretty close there. But we need a full-on natural 20 for this. Which I don't think we're going to roll. And in 6 rolls, we for sure did not. Unfortunately, he's not going to have a lot of information about the Salomon. But he's probably gonna. He knows what they have talked to him about. Do I want to name drop that right now? I don't know if I want to name drop it. This is a situation where I might need to make up a name. No, maybe this is just a typical information thing. There's 2 3D bubbles due to. Again, this information is not correct. In exactly the same way. So he knows a little bit about the Salomon. He knows the Salomon often pledge their service to Afridi, which is probably true. Who are, you know, wonderful demons and elementals in their own right. Fire elementals. Similar to the way the kobolds do dragons. Yeah, they're kind of minions for a greater powerful being. That's true. That is not technically who these people are service to. He doesn't know a name thing. I was trying to figure out whether he either knew the name but didn't know who it was, or he doesn't know the name but he kind of gives them a clue as into what the creature might be. So I think this also makes more sense. Oh, right. I needed to do that. One moment. I forgot that I was going to bring something up from session 1. All the way back in session 1. Lexi. There he is. Ardith. Okay. Alright. I was trying to remember that dude's name. Alright. Perfect. No worries. There. We'll blow this up a little bit. So one of the things that I wanted to do, and this will be very important. I guess I put it. Oh, right. It's going to make most sense here. Insight? Remember this particular piece of information? Maybe basic intelligence or insight. Yeah, we'll just put art. Is the so this is where we pull in stuff like from that's super old. So this is literally from session 1. Literally from session 1. They came across a guy who needed some help. he asked them for some help. He was an adventurer in his own right. He was on a horse, going off. He was tracking some people making fires all over the place on the mainland. Just before they even reached the island. They decided not to help him, which is fine. They decided not to go on that adventure because they were trying to make their way to the island instead. And so, what we're going to find out here is that, hey, one of these guys, it's been some weeks. In fact, it's been over a month and a half, something like that. At this point, they see, we'll see if they remember that this scimitar looks familiar to them. It was that they have seen a person wield it before. That was Ardeth, the adventurer. You know, we put 2 and 2 together, we get 4. The presumption here will be that Ardeth, unfortunately, is dead. And that they are carrying this scimitar of his. Knowing that, should they have decided to help Ardeth, he may have not died. Happens. Sometimes the choice is not necessarily the actions you take, but also the actions you choose not to take. So in this one, we'll find out. I gotta put in here, not Ash. Because Ash was not in the beginning of that campaign, so he's definitely not going to recognize that. So Ash won't be able to recognize that, because Severin would, but Severin, that character, is unfortunately dead / turned into a troll. So, Ash, however, was not with them at the beginning of the campaign, so Ash does not know anything about this guy. He wasn't there for session 1. Which I get, yeah, I guess I should go ahead and look it up. Yeah, is it just triangle? It's just triangle, right? I believe so. Yeah, it's just triangle. That makes it easy. I'll say blazing, but bright. All right. So we know that. What does he know about the zone? Well, obviously he knows quite a bit. Here, seeking the alien. Here, wrong here. Here, seeking. We'll just say seeking. Element seeking. They're seeking the carnelian beads. What do they know about the carnelian beads? Or what does our friendly neighborhood Halamuth know about that carnelian beads? He is wise. I think it's likely he knows about this, so I'm gonna let him have advantage. Oh, okay. So he knows actually quite a bit. All right. So he will remind them. Do that. Let's see. Them the names and descriptions of all the items in the set. That's it. On the paint. So there was a painting, which is one of the things that Swain sold during the festival to this haberdasher. with a box that had a whole bunch of stuff in it. A lot of texts that were actually banned in the Caliphate, which is the area the nation they're under, that are banned by the Caliphate. So there's a guy who's already in some wibbly wobbly, maybe not super legal stuff, which makes sense because Swain is a not super legal kind of guy. SRPC. And in that was a portrait, was a painting, in which they know the name of the painting. I don't remember the name of the painting off the top of my head right now, but they know the name of the painting. And I'm gonna freeze. So Halamith will be able to give them the names and descriptions of all the items that are in the set. Like he's familiar with the painting. We rolled a 19. He's familiar with the painting. He knows what the painting is. One of which will be the Nigratier, which is one we will remember that is the one that Zarnok has in his possession, at which point Zarnok will probably look for that in his bag and realize that it's been stolen, which happened also during the festival. Allegedly human streamer. Not human at all. How you doing, engineer? So yeah. That'll be a nasty reveal for them. Look, it was telegraphed to them many times that these people were clearly looking for something during the festival. They never really pinned it down. And or gave it that much mind. They were kind of preoccupied with other things happening at the festival. It took them a while, but they got it. It took them to the very end of the festival, but they finally got their hands on it. And unfortunately, rolled a pretty good stealth, very good sleight of hand check. And unfortunately, Zarnok, the beefy Dragonborn boy that he is, quite strong, great fighter, not the most perceptive person in the world, unfortunately. So, You're okay. D&D Beyond murdered your best homebrew because the website's code is the equivalent of poorly boiled potato. Yeah, I mean that's one of the problems with D&D. One of the problems with D&D Beyond is that D&D Beyond's on its fourth owner of the website, and so that's a whole bunch of different people making layers of cake code on top of each other, none of which are the original scripters of that code. So, yeah, it's problematic. Sorry about that, though. That does not sound fun. Does not sound fun. I hate it when something put a lot of work into something and then it gets diluted. Not fun at all. All right. Win. What would be the question for the win? For our. Yeah. Well, let's see. Does he even know? We're gonna have advantage because he's a smart cookie. Yeah. So he's gonna know something. He's gonna have some input as to timing. He probably doesn't have a specific date. This might be how. Maybe this is how long they have been on the island or in the area. Well, we know they're relatively new-ish in the area, but we don't know how long. So we'll go days, weeks, months? Days, weeks, months, seasons. How about that? 2 days. All right. I use a little pyramid. 1 through 4, 5 through 7, 8, 9, 10. So they've been on the, it's got to be less than a week, so. Coming right up on a week. Okay. With our custom calendar. And in the for we'll put it this way. First, saw them today. Oh, but that can't be true. That can't be true. Because they had already encountered the Striders previously, and it's certainly been more than 5 days. We can find out what day that was. Look at our previous notes. What was the previous session? Let's go down to 12-ish. That's before they get there. Open waters, yes. So it's right here. So that was when they were at Halamuth. I clearly keep changing the spelling of Halamuth from A to U. Alright, so that was Spring Maiden 61. Is when they had last encountered these guys. That gives me an idea of what I'm looking for here. 61, so it's been... Today is... Back to my actual date. Today's the 13th. Yeah, so they've been here... I guess we'll have to go with weeks. Let's roll a d4 for weeks. How many weeks have they been here? Okay. They've been snooping around for about 3 weeks. Which makes sense, then that would have given them basically, how long? That would have given them, what, maybe a couple of weeks to get down there from the mainland when they first encountered these guys, which I think, that's the actual, do I have a date for the first session? Spring Maiden 43, okay. Spring Maiden 43, which would be... From this day, it's precisely 4 weeks ago. False Deity. It was published, but it... Oh, this is the homebrew. Yes, it was published, but it had some atrocious errors. Yeah, well, yeah. Even if the actions and whatnot are fine. Website won't load when they search. Yeah, I shouldn't link. Yeah, if you want to put it, and I think it, depending on what you're on, it may block you from putting a link in. You might have to put a little space in there if you want to drop it in. And since I'm using Restream right now, I don't know how to change that in Restream. Sorry about that. I don't know how to allow that for that right now. So you'll have to drop in the space. That's fine, though. Okay, so you first saw them sniffing around about 3 weeks ago. Where? So this could be like, where are they kind of like camped out? Does he know that? Yeah. I did say he's wise, Halamuth. Okay, so even with his advantage, which is from him being wise, which kind of translates to being perceptive in D&D, and from the being on a literal mountain where he has a lot of good view, he doesn't know, he doesn't have a good idea. But we weren't very far off, so I'm going to give him a one last ditch. Does he know at least the direction that they're camped in? Nope, not a clue. They're amphibious, so they sneak up under the water, so he has no idea where they're from. Where they're camped. They sneak up underwater. Why are they here? Well, we know why they're here. They're seeking the carnelian beads. Do we know? Have they shared any inclination as to what they want them to do? I think that's pretty unlikely, honestly. So I'm going to give him advantage, but I'm going to give him -5 to the roll. So it's going to kind of balance out. That's A1, essentially, if we take the higher. They did not share that information. Yeah, when he asked, they beat him harder. When he tried to get information out of them, they just hit him more. Which makes sense. No issues. If you want to check it out, skill it, feel free. I always appreciate it. Back. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, and maybe take a look on it here. Even though we're probably getting close to when I'm in the stream. I knew this would take... I'm glad that this took about the right amount of time for a stream. That's really good. Very nice. I could not have planned that better. And, whoa, how are they doing it? They're taking them. Put down here. And they get somewhere. Grab the beads. Them somewhere. So this will be fun. Keep saying the carnelian beads. So yeah, they basically look like this. These are the carnelian beads. It's just a real thing that actually exists. These ones obviously are super magical, but yeah, they just kind of look like this. They got this prayer bead kind of look to them. Let's see what we rolled. All right. Okay, so that'll give us... So this is probably where I would actually probably can end prepping right here. They're going to go to the place. They'll probably talk to Noof for a moment. Noof doesn't have a ton of more information for them. They'll sneak their way up. They'll be a little bit slower unless they decide to leave Zarnok behind because he's slowed. That would be an incredibly bad idea. They'll run across the phase spider as they get to the big camp, which we know has been the area where the phase spider's been munching down on striders and salaman and all sorts of fun, nasty things that it's been tying up and eating and cocooned. They've already met most of them and killed most of the things that it had cocooned. So now it's doing a new one. And they'll probably, I assume that they will try to sneak past. They'll have advantage from the rain. And even if it does catch wind of them, even though the DC is super low, there is a chance that the MGS exclamation mark will go up, so that way it doesn't immediately turn into a combat. It's that the spider will notice something's happening and then turn around, and I'll give them basically a double check to be like, can they sneak away? It's basically a double fail state. Now, if they for some reason capture its notice, but do escape, there is a chance that the spider might follow them. And that could make stuff that happens in the panic room really different and really bad for everybody that's involved. So there is a chance that I do see this going down where they might just grab Halamith and run if the phase spider shows up and starts munching down on our fire newts. There is a chance that will happen. Now, I'm on the fence as to whether I want to make this guy, this Ardeth's scimitar, a magic weapon. I may not. I don't know yet. I think I have an idea of what to do with that. Maybe. We'll see. Alright. Anyways, then likely they will talk with Halamith at that point. I'm going to have to start respelling his name correctly. I keep changing between the A to U to A to U to A to U. So we know what he knows about the Vegemin Blight. We know what he knows about the Salaman attack and the Carnelian Beads. So the only thing that's left is the idea that they're going to do the return trip to Pale. Unlikely we will get quite to that point. That's probably about where we're going to end, but it'll take us just a few minutes. I'm not going to fully lay it out. So I think it's going to be a return trip. I'm going to look at what it took to actually get to there. It was maybe 24? Nope. Longer than the 26? 25. Sammy and Samir. I'm not going to do as much as I did with them getting there, but they're going to take them back to the Planespeak. They'll take the return trip to the Planespeak. Sammy and Samir. So now I'm just going to roll very nicely. Are Sammy and Samir okay? I think it's extremely likely that they're okay. So I'm going to give them a +5 to this. They have basically just sat in the tall grass in their boats waiting this out. So it would be incredibly unlikely that anything's happened to them. Nothing has happened to them. Here. Half for brothers here, so I remember who they are. Two gap-toothed brothers who are from the sticks. And able to plot their return course with or without with I should say and Noof. So I think there's going to be, I'll give them basically 3 opportunities. Return trip stuff. Events. I think that there's going to be potentially a few different ones as they were headed out. So we'll see if there's anything different. I'll just roll. I'm going to roll a d12 for each of these. It only really matters if I roll a 12 or a 1. I rolled a 12 on that last one. So something right before they get to the Planespeak. We'll say the Salt Marshes. Salt Marsh, not that one. Into the Salt Marshes. Inside the Planespeak. The Planespeak is an inn. Something's gonna happen. But I rolled a 12, so it should just be nothing of particular note. It's basically the false deity. Basically, the false Hydra's more aggressive twin. It still affects large groups, but instead of appearing itself, it turns villages and cities into zealots, and the people begin driving each other mad. Then it creates a loop from which it feeds. Oh, interesting. Yeah, imagine arriving in a village where everyone goes around speaking nonsense and acting crazy. That would never happen in D&D. Never, ever. Certainly wouldn't happen in like an Innsmouth kind of situation. It's more like you walk into a village and everyone's quiet and religious. The false deity doesn't make them insane, just very religious people. Very zealous, but not in an outspoken way. Very interesting. Interesting bit. Might be hard to pick up on. Tell the difference between a village that's been infected and maybe just like a religious commune. Alright. We're in the marshes, so I'm going to use... I said earlier that one of the things that I have in my DM's binder is I have a little D20 tables for wilderness dressing, which is what they're going to come across here. That's definitely going to be in the marsh. So I'm going to roll 2 D20s, one for wetland, one for coastal marsh, and see what we come up with. If it's good, I'll smash them together, or I'll take whichever one I like better. So 13 in wetlands is mist rolls in or out. That's very, maybe. I don't super love that one. Number 2 are bloated remains of a man or monster. Just for funsies, let's re-roll this one because I didn't like that. Floating log or dugout canoe. Yeah. Yes, gosh, I'm gonna forget the name of this word. For a Warlock? Warlock? I'm gonna have to look it up. I know we're very close to it. That's why I don't mind looking it up. Go. Oh no, I didn't write it there. And Coracles. That's what I was trying to remember. Coracle. Yeah, we'll make it a coracle. This is one of the things where we're just gonna throw some. Prep kind of threw me a curveball, so we're gonna throw them something out here. Okay, so question is this body related to something that we already know about that's going on? The answer is yes. Okay, is it dealing with the Vegemin? I think that's kind of likely. The plane speaks pretty close to where things were happening. Well, let's say +3. Okay, yeah. Question, is it a Vegemin? I think that's pretty unlikely. -5. Yeah, okay, so it's not that. So it's going to be somebody, so it's related. That's what we'll put. Body seems related to the Vegemin Blight. Cause of death. Is the cause of death violence? No. Okay, so if that's not the cause, then the cause must be the blight. So yeah, we'll go with that. Put a dead body. We'll say their eyeballs are swollen. And thinks. I'll make this a perception. Or medicine. I take a medicine check as well. I'll say perception. Or medicine. Advantage. If they decide to make a medicine check, I'll let them have advantage on it if they're trained in medicine. Otherwise, it's just a perception check. To ID the smell as the same. Blighted spores. Creepy if everyone is fanatically religious. Could it be in a way where they worship a god, but they don't really do things the god would approve of? That's the point. It feeds worship, so its religious community could spawn the false deity. Yeah. Gotcha. That makes sense. Alright, so on the return trip, they will potentially come across this dead body. Well, they will. I just don't know if they're going to get there this time. I'll go ahead and mirror, and then we have Helamith and Nuth. They are going to accompany. Well, there should be. Yeah, I mean they can make room for both of them. They're in canoes. Then they got room. They can. It'll be uncomfortable, but they can definitely put one person in one extra person on the canoe. I'll say, make that more clear for myself. All right. At the plane speak. I believe they need to pay Sammy and Samir. Hey, Sammy and Samir, let me see. When did they agree to? 26? 5? Probably, actually, it's gonna be the 4. Alright, so it was 8G a day. They paid them up front, I believe, for the first day. If I recall correctly. That's what they did. I think. Let me jump down here. Sorry. Alright, so that was 12th. And it is currently the... Is that true? Have they only rested once here? I guess, yeah, I guess they have only rested once here. That's right. Because I had misspoken, said 6 day. So 26 was the 12th. Okay. And it'll be for... I thought they had rested once, one other day on here. I'm gonna double check that. I thought they had. They set out. Elephant. And they rested at the end of this one. Yep, no, I guess that makes sense. Yeah. So, not too bad. So they'll need to pay off Sammy and Samir the extra gold once they get back, and then they'll be done. From there, they can figure out where they're going to go to next. So they have a few different people they could talk to. They could go back and talk to, oh, what's his face? The old guy with the limp. Whose name I'm blanking on. Have I written him down in the NPC notes yet? Probably not. Been really bad about that. Chloe, Japheth, Kishani, Lakekeeper Paris, Sammy and Samir, Rakma, Rush Khadija, Thorin. Yeah, I clearly have not written him down. Oh, yes, I have. It's Kishani Kirith. Sure, that's his name. That's Kishani. Oh, yes, the old guy with the limp, of course, I remember him. They've only come across one person with a limp. So, maybe. Yeah, he's the mustard yellow dragonborn. And he is the person who's kind of sent them off on this quest, who they may or may not come back and talk to. Go to Kishani's. And decide where to go from here. Perhaps check in with Keisha. Honey Kirith. Bayfera. The Vegeman Camp. Yeah, they're kind of in a spot where after this, they'll have to figure out where they want to go. Ideally, that's where I want to end the session so they can tell me where they're going to go next, so that way I'll know specifically what to prep. Try not to leave yourself at the end of a session being like, I don't know where they're going next. Try to make them pin down where they're going to go next. Why is there a picture of a monkey? That's Folami. Folami the Monkey Man hireling. He's a Hodozi. Based off of Maroon Linger, which is this guy. That's what he looks like. Yeah. He's an expert sidekick, rangerish sidekick that they have come across. And is for hire. He can be hired to help them. I need to really complete that NPC section that is very much underdone. Or undercooked. I need to fix that up. But yeah. That should give me more than everything that I need for this next session. Like I said, it's unlikely they will get down to this last session for the return trip to Pale. So I'll hand wave most of that. If they do make it that far, they are going to be, based off of their current stamina, they're probably going to be super exhausted by the time they get there. I did say that they probably needed to make a check before they do that. So we'll make that check right here. Your conclusion. Time to roll for stamina. Stamina? Staminella? Stamina. They roll stamina. But yeah, that's it. So this will be my session prep. That's more than anything that I'll need to know. Don't need to do anything else for it. So this is what my session prep looks like. This is a little bit more intense than usually it is. Mainly because I know there's going to be a lot of questions that they may ask during this. So that's why a big chunk of this is just questions that they might ask. Are who, what, when, where, why, whoa, which how backwards. Easy things. If you need to know, you know, and have no real info. So that's it. So we know that they're going to start in the bone pit after they did their feather token fall down from the cave bear above. There is a chance they could run into the cave bear. That's highly unlikely. I may have them on their way back if they for some reason really knocked this last climactic encounter out of the ballpark for whatever reason. I might give them the chance to maybe run across the Bear King again. Probably not, because I'm pretty sure if they come up against the Bear King or the Face Spider, those guys are going to absolutely smoke the party. The party will full on TPK. Like, do not have to worry about that at all. They will die. And especially the Face Spider. Even if the Griffin shows up again, the Griffin could, even though I think that Halamith may have a relationship with Griffin. So if it comes to that, then Halamith might be able to do something about that. But yeah, that's sort of what my prep looks like. We're going to finish out this Wise Halamith Mountain, into this adventure, and then they will be back on the island and figuring out what to do about this blight next. They might have Halamith and Noof. They might. They probably won't. But they might. And then they kind of have to decide who they want to go and talk to next. Then go check with Gazi Takisha to see if she's done anything about the message they sent to her. They can go talk to Kishani Kirith, who may or may not be able to give them any insight on anything. Maybe not at this point. Then go talk to Bayfera, which is, all this stuff is happening technically under her domain. So she might have some input on it. They can actually make their first contact with the Vegeman camp itself, determine if they can cross that language barrier and talk with them. What level is the party? The party is level 2. They are still low baby adventurers. I beat them up like crazy, but they seem to enjoy it just fine. They keep coming back, so must be doing something right. Oh yeah, this is the prep. So now my prep for tomorrow's done. Only took me, what, a little less than 2.5 hours. And honestly, that's slower because we're doing chat and talking back and forth. So it didn't really take that long. But I also knew what was going to happen this session, so I didn't have to kind of pull it out of my butt, which is always helpful. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one. Hopefully, that was useful for you guys. And hopefully it can give you some insight as to seeing somebody else prep, how maybe you want to change your prep or what things are important for you. You might be looking at this and being like, oh, I like this thing, I use this thing, or I would never need to do that thing, or I always improv that, or whatever it is. Hopefully it's useful for you guys. But that's going to be it for me. Usually we do these regular streams on Saturday mornings, or at least Saturday morning for me, here in the US. Pretty early, so if you're an early riser, you can grab a cup of coffee with me and we can talk about anything. I think this Saturday, assuming that I am streaming this Saturday, I was supposed to stream last Saturday, that happened. We're going to be talking about rivers. We're actually going to be talking about this stuff, the stuff I was just looking at. We're going to be talking about all this stuff right here. It's river classification stuff, it deals with hex mapping and world mapping and all that fun stuff. So if you're interested in learning more about some world building stuff and seeing how that goes, you can always join us live. If not, you can always get the video on demand either from Twitch, or you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and you can watch it whenever. But other than that, yeah, you're gonna come catch my stream next time. Nice, thanks for the follow. That'll be it for me, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, have a good one. Bye.